Now, I don't know whether we got a smaller room or there's more people here. I think we got more people here this today. But may I first of all welcome the Prime Minister of Haiti. Thank you very much for joining us. And ladies and gentlemen, you are most welcome to today's session on improving cross-sector coordination in Haiti. You know, we've just heard from in the video that Haiti has been an important focus for the CGI since 2008. And since 2009, we have been working with a very devoted group, and there are too many people in this room, but it's like having a supporters club like no other. And I want to thank everybody who have been supporting this network over the last 5 years. It's been terrific what you've done, and I'm sorry I won't be able to pick out all of you today, but you know who you are. We wanted to just talk a little bit, across a variety of issues this morning. On improving, for example, access to education, enterprise development, and increasing access to safe water, and also bringing solar to schools and hospitals. So, there's a number of big projects that this group has been involved in over the last number of years. As many of you know from President Clinton, that making a commitment in CGI is only half the job. In fact, it's the easiest thing is to make a promise. But we really focus here on keeping the promise and making the progress. And that's what our updates at all these meetings are all about. For those of you who attended the annual meeting 12 months ago, you may remember that we had 25 Haiti commitments that had been completed, which is fantastic. We had 9 commitments were fully funded and ongoing, and 39 commitments were ongoing and seeking funding to meet their intended goals. I'm very pleased to report that as of today, an additional 16 Haiti commitments have now been completed. So we're seeing real progress as we move through the commitments and people keep their promises. In addition, I'm delighted to give updates on just a few of the commitments in our network. The first one is One Village Planet, which is working with female farming cooperative in northern Haiti to improve agricultural infrastructure and increase market options for small-scale farmers. They had a funding gap of 160,000 last September out of 200,000. But this commitment now is fully funded, and milestones have been reached, such as agricultural training for the co-op, and a new irrigation system has been expanded. And this means that there's a greater diversity of the crops that can be sold. So thank you very much, and congratulations to One Village Planet. Waterdog.org had a funding gap of $1.5 million last year for their commitment to reach 50,000 people with safe water and sanitation in Haiti. So this is a big project. They have received a very generous donation from the Carter Foundation and are now fully funded. So congratulations to all those folks involved in this project. They are on target to complete their commitment by next summer as originally planned. In the education sector, which is such an important sector for Haiti, the Kellogg Foundation have been very, very active in this area. And they are working with a number of partners, including, very importantly, the Ministry of Education in Haiti, to improve access and the quality of education for primary and secondary education in the central area and southwest corridor of Haiti. The intention of this commitment is for 48,000, so a stadium full nearly, of students to gain access to improved education and also the training of 1,000 teachers. This commitment has already more than half its funds raised, and we're well on our way to meeting the rest of that commitment. I'd also like to mention NRG, which is a US-based company, and David Crane, his CEO, for the work that he has done together with his family and his colleagues in NRG. I'd also like to mention, you're going to hear from Sean Penn and JPM, HRO, for what they've done in Haiti, which is incredible, the depth of work that they've done. Sean is here today. This is the first time since he made his first Holy Communion that he's worn a tie. So thank you for that, Sean. So let's move forward in our program for this morning. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Lamothe, who is the Prime Minister of Haiti, who has brought an incredible amount of energy to his role. Also, he's brought a lot of skills in the whole organisation side because he comes from the private sector. And I just want to welcome him here this morning and thank him for coming all the way from Port-au-Prince to be here with us in New York. Please give a warm welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Denis. I am very honored and humbled. Every time I'm invited to speak at CGI, I look forward to it. It's a distinguished pleasure every time I get to stand up and restate my commitments for Haiti, and especially in front of investors, in front of people who believe in Haiti, like yourselves, people who have Haiti in their hearts. I want to thank each and every one of you for your commitments to my country. My commitments are great, and currently 800 different projects are committed to the country. We will have the opportunity to see before and after photos of those commitments. I want to thank Denis O'Brien, of course, for leading the Haiti Action Network, for being one of the strongest supporters of Haiti, supporting anti-poverty programs, contributing to sending over 1 million Haitian children in school, and of course to President Bill Clinton for the hard work, dedication, and staying the course in Haiti in a sometimes difficult environment. I want to tell you about the 5 main commitments that the government is making. One is education. We want to expand our free education program from 1.2 million. First of all, we started at 0. Today we're at 1.2 million, and the commitment is to go to 2.5 million, so adding 1.3 million children and waiving their tuition fees. 2 is to fight illiteracy, with a literacy program to add 500,000 people to the program this year. 3 is to improve security in the country, keeping the country safe for you all when you visit, to feel that you can go anywhere and do anything and visit the most beautiful beaches in the Caribbean, and also helping the people, but doing so in a safe and secure environment. We've managed to do that. Haiti was one of the most difficult places to being today one of the safest destinations in the Caribbean. 4, creating more job opportunities, filling the Caracol Industrial Park with tenants and expanding it, and fighting corruption, is improving the ease of doing business in the country by improving our ranking on the index. And however, the most important commitment is energy, and that's been one of the most difficult point for me personally as Prime Minister and for Haiti as a whole, is to, 1, reduce the cost of electricity, improve access, improve coverage, while also privatizing the sector, working in partnership between the utility and private companies. And this is going to be one of the main focus of our attention for the next 2 years to come, is to getting that right. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to express gratitude of the Haitian people, of the government of Haiti, and continue to support you in your commitments, in your action for Haiti. Each commitment here contributes to the general well-being and the general progress in Haiti, and I want to encourage you to do so. Mobilizing for action goes a long way into supporting the Haitian people, supporting change, supporting action in Haiti, and action is what we need. For too long, the country has been marred in bureaucracies, red tape, and all the negative reasons for things not to get accomplished. So in 28 months, we put together a team to change Haiti. Of course, it's a huge undertaking. Taking a country that had all types of infrastructure problems, coupled with the tragic earthquake that killed over 250,000 people and caused $13 billion of destruction, taking an education system that had a lot of problems, to a country today that is on the path of recovery. However, it's a fragile recovery and needs the support and mobilization and the spirit of staying the course. Keep believing in the country for the country to do better on the long run. For the country to become a better place, we will need the support and mobilization not only for a year or 2 years, but for the next 20 years to come. This is a major undertaking, and this government is trying to do a lot with very little. Out of the 800 projects, we're paving 300 kilometers of roads. We have put solar panels on most of our highways in Port-au-Prince. The security has improved. It's a much safer place today. Like I said, it's one of the safer places in the Caribbean. And this has come by a plan, a strategic development plan that puts security at the top. Because without security, the other will not come. Investments will not come. Progress and private capital will not come. Today I'm speaking in front of you. Tomorrow I'm going to be speaking at the United Nations about the fact that Haiti came a long way and we made tremendous progress to be where we are today. However, we'll need all of you to stay the course and to dare to be ambitious and to stay focused. Staying focused will be the recipe of success. And I know very well that some of you are frustrated by the red tape and by sometimes the time that it takes to get projects done, and sometimes the difficulty of making it happen. But I want you all to understand that the country is doing a lot of effort to correct those. And we understand that it's not going to happen overnight. And we want you all, and I'm talking to you because I know that Haiti is in your heart, and that all of you sitting here today, the reason why we're at capacity is you're not only listening to another speech, but you're here because you care. And I appreciate that. And I'm talking to you because we're on the same team, because this government cares. We want to do things different. We want to do things that have never been done in the country before. And we understand that we cannot do it alone. We want private investments in the country. We managed from 2012 to 2013 to improve the amount of investments by 19%. We have 44 projects at $225 million currently invested in Haiti. We have another 400 kilometers of road to be paved. We have to improve the environmental policies of the country. The country is much cleaner today than it was last year, and it's going to be cleaner next year than it is this year, because we have taken policies to improve the cleanliness of the country. We are creating jobs with that. We just put in a job creation program that will hire over 50,000 Haitians just by collecting foam plates and water plastic bottles that are left on the curbside. If you go to Haiti in 2 months, I promise you, and I'm looking at that personally, that Haiti will be as clean as it ever was. And it's a small change, but that goes a long way. So my message to you all is how to continue to help Haiti is, 1, to stay focused on what you're doing. 2, make sure that the commitments are fulfilled. And we want to help you fulfill the commitments. I discussed with Denis today, how could the government better play a greater role in coordinating the efforts that all of you are doing? Because looking at it from 2010, over $300 million were invested in Haiti through the Action Network. So this is a significant amount when you think that all the changes that happen in Haiti came with less than $1 billion. Less than $1 billion, and we're doing roads. We're reconstructing the countries. 10 new buildings are going up, 5 new airports, 1 new port. Cap Haitian is being taken care of. The homes of the poorest are being renovated. 3,000 new homes are being built in the country. And all that, trying to do a lot with little. But what I would like is to have a better direct contact with you all and coordinate what's happening better. And, I discussed it with Dennis today to see how can the government help. All the goodwill, how can we benefit more from the goodwill? So one of the ideas is that from my office, I'm going to nominate a team of coordinators from the Prime Minister's office to work with the Haiti Action Network and help you in the details, because the devil is always in the details. So my commitment is to help your commitment land and to achieve those commitments. So in the next meeting, we'll appoint a team that will work with you all, take all the, from MPCE, for example. When I came in, I understand that we're having some problems with papers for a new NGO that has to be created. And, when I'm the one that signs, the papers from the NGO. So it's all better dialogue, better coordination, and also for me to be aware, or my team to be aware of what's happening and what are the problems and how to solve the problems. If every day we can solve 5 problems, then it will make Haiti a better place tomorrow than it is today. That's the commitment that I have, is to keep working for the Haitian people, for Haiti to be a stronger country, to be a more resilient country, and also to make your effort count to the most. So again, I don't want to take too long. I want to thank you for, there on that picture quickly is a neighborhood renovation program that cost $2 million, and we renovated in that program 1,040 homes, fixing the roofs, painting, bringing more dignity, bringing colors. We have solar panels that we put in that neighborhood, and now talking to the people, they are a new people. They feel more dignity. They feel more pride in their neighborhood, and that cost $1.9 million, to fix that. We're going to phase 2. The goal is to fix 10,000 homes in that neighborhood. And when you go to Haiti, and if that's in the Pétionville area, in the Jalousie, it's called Jalousie in Colors, you will, talking to the people, it brings a new Haiti in their eyes. And that's what we want. Fight against extreme poverty, against social exclusion, and also bringing a better Haiti, which is what we all want to see to be a better place. Thank you very much, and keep doing the good work. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderator, Executive VP and Global Communications and Public Affairs Officer, Marriott International, Kathleen Matthews.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. I just have to say thank you to the Prime Minister for that focus, that update, but also your commitment to work with the people here in the room who are so committed to that drumbeat of change in Haiti. And it's just wonderful to look out at the room because everybody's sort of at the edge of their seat. They're leaning in, really ready to engage in this. And the passion that continues for rebuilding Haiti is just unbelievable to see. My company, Marriott International, is very proud to be working on a commitment to try to restore Haiti to the pinnacle of tourism. We remember a country in which Pan Am flights were coming into Port-au-Prince, Havana, Cuba, and San Juan, Puerto Rico. Those were the jewels of the Caribbean, and we see a day where Haiti can be once again back in that prominent role as a tourist destination and also a great place to do business. So we're very excited to be working on that front. We have a wonderful panel for you here today. We've got about a half hour to talk about the lessons they've learned as part of their commitments through the Haiti Action Network to the progress in Haiti. We also want to have time for questions from all of you because we know you want to know how you can work effectively in Haiti with the government and also in partnership with other NGOs through commitments with the Clinton Global Initiative and with the Clinton Foundation. So we've got a lot of territory to cover. So let me just bring up our panelists right away as I take a seat here with all of you. Of course, probably the most relentless ambassador for Haiti has been Denis O'Brien, not only chairing the Haiti Action Network, but also as chairman of the largest cell phone provider, Digicel. He's the largest investor in Haiti. He's the largest taxpayer in Haiti and has built about 100 schools in Haiti, so very committed to making Haiti not only a better place to grow up, to live, but to go to school, to do business, and ultimately working with Marriott as our partner on our hotel project to make Haiti that destination for tourism that we all would like it to see. So, Denis, thanks very much. We also have Ambassador for Women's Issues, Danielle Saint-Lot. Danielle has been in the government as the Minister of Commerce. She brings that experience. She's overseen tourism for the country, and now she's empowering women throughout the country through her organization, Femmes en Démocratie. Bonjour, Madame. And then finally we have Sean Penn, the prominent activist who spends as much time in Haiti as he does anywhere in the world. Sean has really made Haiti his second home and has been very much involved with his organization, JP Han, Haiti Action Network, HPO. Haiti Relief, HRO, JPHRO, Haiti Relief Organization, which initially was involved in cleanup, moving people to more permanent housing. And now Sean not only is in the aftermath of the earthquake working on that restorative effort, he's actually getting engaged with small businesses as the next stage in his contribution to the development and empowerment of people in Haiti and the private institutions there. So Sean Penn, it's great to have you there. So, Denis, if I can start with you. President Clinton has, on a number of occasions, at the Inter-American Development Bank event, actually breaking ground on the new Northern Industrial Park in Caracol, he has said, these are examples of how Haiti is finally open for business. You know a lot about business. What does being open for business mean in a country like Haiti? What has been the progress you've seen on that journey? But what do you think are the real challenges that still need to be addressed?
Well, I think, first of all, Caracol, and many of you have seen the pictures of Caracol. It's a first world industrial park. It's got a terrific amount of activity there already with a very large Korean textile company there. It is our beacon, basically, because 5 years ago or 4 years ago, when a foreign direct investor wanted to come into Haiti, they had nowhere really to go because there was no factories, there was no facilities, no power, no water, etc. So we now have Caracol, but there's other examples around the country as well of smaller Caracols that are already underway, and some of them have been completed. So we now have homes for foreign direct investment. We have CFI, which is the Foreign Direct Investment Agency. It's working reasonably well, probably needs a little bit of refining, but making progress. And we're seeing infrastructure. You can now drive across the country, in 3 hours, where it used to take 6 hours. So all of these small things. But what I would say is this, Americans and Europeans, they look at a country like Haiti and look at all the problems. Whereas if you're, from Asia or from South America, or from India, you don't look at the problems, you look at the opportunity. Haiti has 10 million people, they're consumers, and the economy is growing at 5, 6, 7% a year. So there are lots of challenges for Haiti, but I think the progress in the last 3 years, I hate to say it, but the earthquake was the catalyst. And now, as the Prime Minister has so eloquently described this morning, the progress in different sectors. And it's 1 million projects, small things, everybody keeping their promises and doing projects properly that will transform Haiti. There's no big bang like what happens in China. It's all everybody doing something. I see Eunice here, in the whole microfinance area, we're seeing progress there. All over this room, but also within the government as well, we're seeing very good projects, but executed really well. And I think, I look at Rwanda and I say there's great leadership there. And look what's happened to Rwanda in the space of 10 years. And I think that Haiti can be our next Rwanda at the U.S. doorstep.
I saw you smile when the Prime Minister said that he's going to have somebody in the government who becomes sort of the point of contact. That obviously was a signal that you thought was important to hear from the Prime
very,
Minister.
very important. And what we would, we think that's a great idea. That's another good initiative. Because sometimes we're writing down, to solve different problems for different people within the network. And now that is a really great development. That's a fantastic practical idea. And the Prime Minister, when he said it to me this morning, said, wow, now we're on to something that'll help a lot.
I'm going to jump over Danielle for a second because you have the longest view of Haiti and progress. But Dennis mentioned the earthquake, and Sean, that's when you really started to get involved with your NGO. What have you seen in terms of the progress, and what do you see as sort of the continued challenges that an organization, a nonprofit like yours, has to deal with?
Well, I think by way of context, we all know that Haiti is long been termed as the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. But when one considers the impact of one of the most devastating human disasters of all time hitting a country where not only is it the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, but so much so that per person, in fact, the next most impoverished country in the Western Hemisphere, the Haitian people were making half as much as they were. So this was really, so when you take that context and you look at what's happened in the last 3 years, it's actually nothing short of a miracle in terms of the progress. The progress as we relate it to earthquake recovery. And largely that has to do with exactly what we talk about here today in coordination and working with the government, and where we do have a leadership that is responsive and proactive. And this is one of the biggest difficulties in working in the NGO community, because the NGO community so often works as a zero-sum philosophy, and often because not so much because that would be the initial instinct, but because it is so difficult when you're working within the red tape, the bureaucracy that the Prime Minister mentioned. I think that it becomes a kind of, you isolate your projects, and people isolate and fight within that. But that is partly, one of the things that we learned is that while emergency relief, disaster relief, people are dying, suffering in a very urgent, immediate way, this is something that you have to apply yourself to with great urgency. But in development, and especially when you're dealing with a government whose leadership is fighting so hard for its country against all these odds, you have to exercise great patience. And where we talk about, for example, Haiti fatigue is really a dumb show. It's a dumb show that I think is largely created by media profiteers in books and blogs, and even in the New York Times, which has become one of the greatest attacks on the work that all of us tried to do in Haiti. It's a very uninformed and a very it's isolating. It's a parent looking at a child with 1,000 magic colors and pointing out the one fact that they may be fat, or it's really one of the most destructive things that we face. But when we look at where we go forward, and when we look at what we've seen and where the gains have come from in Haiti, we see that there can be a very invigorated approach if it's invested in the patients to understand that it's very much one foot in front of the other.
And tell me, with your NGO, JP Haiti Relief Organization, HRO, what do you think the thing you've done that has made you so successful? Is it the relentlessness of not getting distracted by the obstacles, or, as you say, the Haiti fatigue? What is it that's made your NGO, accomplish the task at hand and then be able to focus on the next task that you'd like to address?
I can bring that to one word: flexibility. I think that in the way that we've been able to adapt, and in the way that we've, from a very early stage, worked with the private sector and with government, that's enabled, a lot of where we've gone with it. We started off briefly with a medical NGO that then very quickly took over camp management of what was the largest IDP camp in Port-au-Prince at about upwards of 55,000 people. By working with the government, by working with the private sector, with people like Denis, and directly with the Prime Minister and the President, we've been able to reduce the number of 55,000 to where we now have 3,200 people remaining in that camp, and by December that camp will be completely relocated. But much more importantly is relocated where, and that again, in working with the government and with the private sector, we look for livelihood programs for those people as they move, and to look for things that are sustainable. But sustainable is that, it's not, the kind of projects that we do are not, it's done and run. These are, sustainability is again, also a long-term investment as it's taken over by people. I just want to quote one of our Haitian staff who came up very much through the ranks and was one of the primaries involved in that number of those relocated. A very young man, Samuel, who said he wants to work for a Haiti that he will want to live in for the rest of his life. And so that's what we are hoping to impart on, with all of the people that we work with.
Danielle, you are the Haitian on the panel who has lived her life in Haiti, and you've seen the longer view, pre-earthquake, of sort of the political turmoil in Haiti and what that did to the country. What do you see as the ingredients that are different today that make you optimistic?
It's this room. When I enter this room and see all these friends of Haiti, I said, God is good, and He's at work. So I thank all of you. And I can tell you what's going on now in Haiti, like having Denis, Sean, Donna, Petra, all these friends. It's more than money. It's more than acting as celebrities. It's spiritual. It's biblical. It's compassion, love, and faith in the people of Haiti. And it's a huge difference, I can tell you.
And without putting you on spot, with the Prime Minister in the room, how is it different for people to be working with the government? Because the government's such an important partner, and we talked about that today. How is that recipe different?
What is different? I've been in the public service. I started my career in the public service, and we are mostly French educated. So now we have a leadership which is more Anglo-Saxon. They are fast, they are quick. So by the time I'm writing, 10 pages, they are already opening doors. And it's a huge difference. So that's why when Prime Minister Lamothe said that he's going to have this office, it will change the whole spectrum. And also, what is very interesting is to see these young guys committed to women empowerment. Thanks to Prime Minister Lamothe and President Martelly, we have 44% women in cabinet for the first time.
Talk a little bit more about that, because this has been your focus. Women and girls as an important ingredient in the drumbeat of change and the progress in Haiti. So why a specific focus for you in that direction?
I can see right now the results. Men in Haiti, and even internationally, they think about rebuilding Haiti. Construction code, safe, construction, all those things, but not about building a nation. And I think that's what the women are doing now. We have a private-public partnership working with the women in cabinet, women organization. And while we are working on meeting immediate needs, our women in cabinet, they are really working on the legal framework. For the first time, we have a law to combat trafficking in person, which is huge in Haiti. And all over the world, it's women and girls that are most affected by this for the first time. For the first time, we have a law on adoption. And I think it's very important, while you meeting needs, immediate needs, to work on more sustainable issues like legal framework for education reform. So that's the whole difference.
Good. And we want to talk a little bit later because you're also doing a lot of work with empowering women as farmers, business owners. But let me have Dennis jump in here because this is sort of at the core of Marriott's commitment with you is to try to help empower a workforce in Haiti. The training that's going to be required to have the talent that will be able to work in the businesses that we hope to attract to Haiti. So we're focusing on women and girls as a focus for hospitality training, partnering with the government and NGOs. Dennis, you have been building schools. Is that education component critical, do you think, to, or how is it critical, do you think? And you've been focusing at the elementary level, but when you look at the workforce capabilities, the human capital in Haiti, what do you see as the gap between where Haiti wants to be and what needs to be addressed right now to get there?
Well, it's been a goal of President Martelly and the Prime Minister to get more and more children into the school system. But when you have a school that is a shack or a school that is informally run under a tree, that's really not conducive to a proper education. So, like a lot of other people in this room, we've been building schools. That is the easy part. The more difficult part is training the teachers to a certain standard. And we've seen incredible, profound changes. Like, for example, we've seen in the national exam results in our schools and some of the other schools as well that other people have done, about a 40% uplift in results. So, if we can get the elementary school structure in Haiti right, I think that's a massive development. I mean, there's no point in racing in. I mean, work needs to be done at the secondary level as well. But I think you've got to start at the bottom and build it up, year by year by year. There's a free education program as well. That is helping. So it's all of these things building on each other. And what I find is that when we went into Haiti originally, everybody said, God, you must be nuts. But we found the most creative people in the Caribbean, the smartest people. And when you put them through a training program, and you're going to see this in Marriott, is when you put your staff through a training program, they're nearly shouting, more. Give me more training, because they want to build their capacity, because they want to improve themselves. And of course, one job maintains maybe 12, 15 family members. So it is an incredibly big impact on the country. I think the challenge, though, is if you look at the whole jobs creation side, and the country's full of entrepreneurs, the problem is that they're informal. They've never been educated. So at a top level, we have the Entrepreneur of the Year program, which is helped by the Clinton Foundation and many others. But at the lower level, really, we need to take entrepreneurs that may have a turnover maybe $10,000 a year, doing great, but how do they access the next layer of funding? And what they, all the organizations that have been set up with that funding all want business plans. Now, if you take a woman or a man off the side of the street with $10,000 of revenue, they don't know how to write a business plan. So now we're looking at a program. We were talking yesterday with the IDB about creating a program. How do you have minimal business training for people so that they can access, $5, $10, $20, $100,000 worth of funding? Because there are, Cofides and many other people have money. They just haven't a way of finding out. So it's a kind of a holistic approach. Get people educated, get people trained, but then pay attention to all these. There must be, I'd say, 750,000 entrepreneurs waiting to explode with their businesses in Haiti.
And Sean, this is an area that you are having addressed sort of basic needs in the outset. This is an area that your group is trying to move into, correct?
Well, we're always looking for ways of partnering on this level. But I'd like to just go briefly back to something that the Prime Minister said in terms of stay the course. It's always this odd thing in the development community, how people relate development projects to the word sexy. Well, that project's just not very sexy to us, and you hear this often. One of the projects that's seemingly not sexy and suffers from what is typically called Haiti fatigue is that while from 1.8 million it's gone down to about 250,000 remaining people in camps, there really is no successful development without relocating, the completion of relocation of people that were suddenly thrown from their homes by this earthquake. So when a country is talking about having to divert Petrocarib funds, for example, to be able to subsidize those programs as we go forward, we really have to look at again, go back to basics and include that in all of our development plans so that we don't, we have a tactically sound organization in terms of relocation. We don't want, once we have, gotten the last family out of our camp, to stop there. We've got a group that can continue and move into other camps, and we're looking for the funding for those things. On the private sector side, in terms of my own, I think I leave it more for Denis to talk about, because it's something that we're much more involved in, I would say, in spirit and in a collaborative process, but not direct creators of businesses, though we've done some microfinance within the community development programs that we do.
Danielle, your organization, I understand, has trained 1,200 women as entrepreneurs and has held...
3,000.
How many?
3,000.
3,000 women as entrepreneurs, and has held trade shows for those women to successfully showcase their goods and services.
Supported by Digicel.
So is there, but are there the markets then for those goods? What in that value chain is working, and what still needs to be addressed for those women to be able to have the, the income to support their families and make sure that these basic needs that Sean's talking about have been addressed?
Yeah. The markets are there. The most important now, it's really work on production and also business development skills. And that's why we are really, really delighted to have now 10 telecenters supported by Digicel, and we're going to have 15 at the end of the year. Yesterday, we were having a conversation with Thunderbird University. They have a new program online for training, so we will see how we can work with the telecenters. And there is a lot of, new potential. And what is very interesting, we have been able, for the last 2 years, to identify the competitive sectors. And we are having conversation with the social business, with Affair International, with a few partners. Now we need to translate this conversation in action, concrete action. And at the Haiti Action Network, we have identified a few partners with which we can work. So it's important to enforce these partners' capacities because they have the skills, they are on the field, but we know our field better than that. And we need for them to have initiative with women that can be replicated. Like we are starting soon, we're going to launch a program with Affair International and the Ministry of Agriculture. It's Honeybee program, so we are looking for a partner in the US for a long-term partnership for honey, organic honey. We're also working with Affair with yam. And our government is creating industrial park, agro-industrial park throughout the country. We're going to launch 10 at the end of this year. So there is a lot of opportunities, but we need really partners, large firms to be committed, not for only charity, but invest. So because we are, with 10 million Haitians, we are the largest market for investors and entrepreneurs of the Caribbean, and we are so close to the US.
So earlier, prior to this panel, in the main ballroom, there were commitments around empowering women through the supply chain. Businesses saying that they would focus on mentoring, training, gaining capacity for women as suppliers. When you hear something like that, can you imagine that happening and taking root right now in Haiti? Is the foundation there?
The foundation there, the soil is very fertile. We just need the money and the partners.
And tourism, wearing your former hat in tourism, tell me what you think, because tourism was a robust part of the Haitian economy at what point? What are the ingredients? Denis talked a little bit about infrastructure, the roads that have been built. The Prime Minister talked about the airports. What are the other ingredients do you think will bring more people into Haiti where they see the opportunities for investment?
I really think the most important thing is what you're doing, having the Marriott coming in Haiti. what our Prime Minister is focusing on, having a tourism place in Île-à-Vache. So when investors will come to Île-à-Vache, they will realize that we can have 10 Île-à-Vache in Haiti. You see what I mean? Now it's really the time for direct investment, international direct investment.
Dennis, why don't you weigh in on that? Because you travel into Haiti. How many times a year are you there?
A lot.
And you're all over the Caribbean as well, so you also know what Haiti's competing against in terms of infrastructure in tourism.
Yeah, what Haiti does not need is all-inclusive hotels. You know, Jamaica's tourism business is actually founded on that, and it's not good for the local economy. And what I really like is this promotion of small family-run hotels, you know, of a very high standard. And there are hundreds now springing up across Haiti. And how do you develop tourism to that? I think, you know, you need to have. There's no point in Haiti selling its tourism the way everybody else sells it. We need to sell the tourism like it's a bit of an adventure. It's really targeted for people who are probably 30 to 50, who like to, you know, go to new places and interesting places and discover. And what they're going to find is, first of all, the food is the best in the Caribbean because it's not fried. And secondly, just the whole welcoming nature of the people in the hotels. And, you know, I travel around the country. I go into a hotel to have a cup of coffee, and, you know, everybody is on message and promoting the country. It's as if it happens, you know, through the ether. You know, in Ireland, we've trained everybody to be a country of 1,000 welcomes. Over in Haiti, it comes really instinctively to them. So it's a different kind of tourism. It's different to the Dominican Republic. And I see my friend who is the founder of Punta Cana here today. And that is an incredible job he's done. But I think we need something different in Haiti. It's a little bit of adventure as such.
Sean, why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because Haiti keeps you coming back again and again, too. So there's that je ne sais quoi that everybody talks about with Haiti. What is that in your mind? Because isn't that in many ways the thing that is Haiti's greatest opportunity and draw and what's going to really drive the future?
I think one of the first things that strikes you when you go to Haiti, or you're landing in Port-au-Prince and getting into a car and starting to drive through the city, is on site. Virtually everyone you see ought to be coming up to the window with their hand out, and no one is. You can be, you know, in other countries that have any kind of relative poverty on this basis that I've traveled, that's what you see. Here, especially in my capacity there with the NGO, I can be approached by, you know, in certain circumstances, as many as 200 Haitians in a day who do want something, and what they want is a job. What they want is education for their children. I can count on two hands how many times in the last going on 4 years that I've been asked for money from a Haitian. This is one of the things that's magic about Haiti. Now, when you get out of my job and you get around the country, you also see the most beautiful beaches that exist on the planet. You see the incredible potential that is there, and that which you want to share with people. And the other thing that we note, and why I think so many people come into this room and are interested in Haiti, is, you know, it's very rare you meet someone who's been to Haiti once. I just got finished with being in Europe on my day job for about 3-4 months, and I leave for Haiti tomorrow, and it's like you just gotta get that back. There's something. There's no point in trying to describe it. You gotta, you know, go, and that's something that's not personality specific. It's really across the boards, and it's why with all of the risks on investment in Haiti. Without risk, there's no magic, and there's an awful lot of magic to be had. So this is why I think all of us believe so strongly in it. One thing I did want to just put out there before we got to the end of this, because is what Liz Blake talked about. I think we all think about what's the thing most needed, and of course, education is always a shiny toy in the behind the window, but again, it goes back to the zero-sum thing that I was talking about. In so much of Haiti's history, what we do at best is educate people out of the country. And that unless there's jobs there on the receiving end of that education, then it can only go so far. And I think, and then the Prime Minister talks about security. And of course, without security, nothing else can move. But I think in the most kind of brass tacks way, in terms of so much of what we need to help and partner with Haiti on, to do that very thing, which is the most essential of bringing jobs, and bringing business, that the land tenure issues are probably supreme in terms of what has to be addressed. It's what, when we talk about the development of, we work in Delma 32, where, I can say that it's very nice. We've just built another 29 houses that we have nearly full occupation of, which includes a lot of people from our camp and all. But I could say very comfortably that those 29 would be 2,900 if we weren't dealing with the land tenure issues that we deal with.
Yeah, you sort of have kind of pivoted to sort of what I wanted to ask each one of you. What are the priorities as you see, the most pressing things that could be addressed right now? Dennis, is it land tenure?
I think land tenure is the elephant in the room. I'd say most of the big families in Haiti do not want to see any change in that whatsoever. So there's a bit of a conflict there, and they're a very powerful group within the country. So it also, obviously, to get the legislation through, the Parliament is going to be a very, very big challenge. So, but I think there's a lot of zeal within the government to go and do something like this. But, jobs is a very interesting one. We met the chairman of Heineken in Davos. The Prime Minister was there. And within a nanosecond, he had emailed whoever the poor CEO was of his subsidiary in Haiti. And next thing, we had representation in the CGI Action Network. And next thing, we have one of our group, which is Sasha Kramer and Soil. She was selling human compost to Brahma. She just sold yesterday $30,000 worth, which now is being distributed to the farmers that grow, I think it's barley or hops or whatever it is, to make beer. I love beer, but I don't know how they make it. And that is a perfect example. Like, she's employing maybe 5, 10 people. Now she'll be able to employ 20, 25 people. So when you're talking about 1 million different things, all those, creating 10 jobs is as good, if not better, than 1,000 jobs. Because 1,000 jobs, big foreign investors can move jobs around the place. So, the heartland of Haiti and job creation is small employers. And just these small little, companies that are moving and just growing and growing and just expanding.
So that's where you are. Is that what you would say is the priority right now? Or
yes, if you have asked me this last month, I would have told you healthcare. But now I'm going to tell you land tenure. Because we have received grants from Norway government to build one-stop centers for women, providing healthcare, gender-based violence. And now the money is there on our account, and we're still fighting for the land. So I think this is key. And also for the women farmers, it's a major, major problem that we need to address.
Because first you have to address the barriers before you can address the opportunities.
Absolutely.
I want to bring the room in because there's so many great stories and experiences here. So we have some microphones we can move around, and we're going to try to get you to be brief. Everybody could probably make fabulous, compelling explanations of their commitments, but if you can quickly recap those, but also address questions or lessons that you have learned that other people in the room could learn from in terms of success in doing business and engaging in Haiti's recovery and this drumbeat of change. Right here we have one in front. Elise Nelson from Vital Voices Global Partnership.
I'll talk loudly. Okay. Thank you, Dennis. And first off, I just want to say a huge thank you to CGI, to Scarlett, I know who's over there in the corner, and to Dennis, because I think one of the things, I've been coming to this Action Network for years, and I've noticed a real drumbeat on integrating women over the last 2 years. So thank you so much for that. And, I've worked over the last 10 years through my organization, Vital Voices, with women in Haiti, particularly Danielle. And what I've seen again and again, and I think we certainly saw this in the aftermath of the earthquake, is women women rising up and saying, we have ideas for how to move the country forward. And Danielle, I wonder if you could talk about the focus groups that you did all over the country, about the ideas that women had for moving their country forward.
Yeah, after the earthquake, we were all, affected, broken. And 1 year after the earthquake, we realized that we are not at the tables. Everybody was thinking about Haiti, talking about rebuilding Haiti in English. And we say, wow, we are not part of this process. So we decided to stop all our activities and to join forces with women organizations throughout the country to identify women priorities. And we organized 315 focus groups throughout the country. There were men and women, 47 men and women, discussing about women priorities. And we came up with the 20 top priorities. And first one was access to health care. Second was access to financing. Third one was access to safe water. And we realized in the 20 priorities, women didn't talk about violence against women, which we know is a major problem in Haiti. Because women, they don't care about themselves. They care about their communities. They care about their family. And that's how we were able to develop a platform, a women policy platform for the reconstruction aid of Haiti that has been, adopted by President Martelly, Prime Minister Lamothe, and now we are translating the platform into action, concrete action. And we were really, really happy to have the support of Vital Voices and Bank of America through a very, very interesting program, the Global Ambassadors Program. And now Digicel is joining us with those telecenters, because we see this platform as a very powerful cross-sector engine. So now we really need multi-stakeholders partnership to advance this cause, which is not a woman cause. It's Haitian cause. It's community cause.
We have Mohammed Yunus also in the room, and if you wanted to share, you've done work all over the world. Perhaps some of the experiences that you've learned that make Haiti different, perhaps. What are the opportunities that you see there, but also some of the challenges?
I'm from Bangladesh. I literally invited myself to Haiti because we have no connection with Haiti. We're far, far away. Bangladesh is a country. Was supposed to be a poorest country, and that's a similarity with Haiti. And also Bangladesh is a country of disasters. So when the disaster in Haiti happened, that immediately kind of triggered me to see if there is something that we should be doing in there. So that's what brought us to Haiti. And luckily Bangladesh this year has achieved the Millennium Development Goal #1 to reduce poverty by half by 2015. So we have done it ahead of time in 2013. So that was a good progress that Bangladesh has made. We have done lots of different things in Bangladesh, and we are excited about those things, and we thought, why don't we try some of these in Haiti also? What we have done in Haiti today, thanks to Prime Minister Lamothe, has been very supportive, and President Martelly. We have created two organizations. One is Social Business Incubation Company, and another one is Social Business Fund. Social business is a business where you do the business to solve a problem rather than make money for anybody. That's the whole idea. It's a non-dividend company to solve human problems. And so far, through our incubation company, we have excited many of the young people, NGOs and others, to come up with the business ideas to solve one problem or another, particularly employment generation, technology introduction, and so on and so forth, and production of fish, production of poultry, and so on. So we have now, out of all these suggestions, all those presentations made, we have funded through the Social Business Fund, invested in 8 companies. So 8 companies are operational now in Haiti. and others are in pipeline, and we have we have received enough money in the fund so that we can invest in these companies, and we continue to gather more funds into the fund. At the same time, we have a very strong team, Haitian team, all Haitian. They are the one who are looking around for enterprises which can do the job, and we are ready with the money to invest so that it becomes a company. It's a social business company to do the job. The major thing which is coming up, and I'm very excited about it, again, the Prime Minister himself very strongly supportive of it, the kind of a dream of creating, reforesting whole of Haiti. Because as you know, Haiti problem of losing the forest. So we want to reforest Haiti. It's a giant kind of undertaking, but with the support behind us through the government about the land. He said land should not be a problem for you. You just go ahead as much as you can do. So we have a joint venture now with Richard Branson. So it will be Virgin Forest that we will make it. He likes it. And Clinton Foundation. So 2 partners are already there besides ourselves. And we are getting involved all the environmental institutions to make sure that we do the right thing in forestry and so on. So we are very excited about it. It will be a big project, big money, investment and so on, but as a social business, so that it will create a lot of employment, a lot of production. It's not simply just tree. It should be in a way that people will be protecting these trees rather than chop those trees out, reversing the process which took away the plants or trees from there. The second one, another joint venture is already finalized. This is with a Brazilian company, Brazil Foods. This is one of the largest in the world in poultry production. So when they became interested in social business, I suggested that why don't we do this social business in Haiti? So in the beginning, they were a little hesitant. Why should we do it in Haiti, not in Brazil? I said, well, Haiti is a good test case for you for social business. So we have joint partnership now, joint venture now, to grow poultry in Haiti. To chicken, so that it creates employment all over, because it's a very simple way to create employment and food production in Haiti. So, and one of the way I joke about it, that soon we should be able to, through this company, should be able to export eggs to Dominican Republic. That's what we should be doing. So that's our undertaking.
And we can buy all those eggs for our omelets.
Absolutely, you can buy it from it. Since you have the free trade agreement, it's very easy to send you the eggs for your omelet.
Thank you very much. Dennis wants to jump in.
Eunice, they look like the happiest hens in the Caribbean in that video. So congratulations.
So can you pass the microphone over to the to Prime Minister Lamothe? Because one of the things that you heard from the panel here, uniformly across all 3 of our panelists, was this issue of land reform. If you could address that. And then also any other insights that you got from this panel to kind of elaborate on your remarks earlier. What are sort of some takeaways here for you?
Well, first of all, in the land tenure, that's one of the most difficult issues among others that we're dealing with. What we've been able to do, however, in order to solve some of the problems, we do it on a case-by-case basis, because the government sometimes has problems, because this is a problem that started in 1804, when after the revolution, land was distributed, to the freedom fighters, and that problem has never been solved up to today. So every time there is a land, 8-10 people claim that the land is theirs. So what we're doing is 2 things. One is a case-by-case basis, where we are partnering with some of the large landowners in order to use the land for specific development projects. 2 is to work on a new cadastre in order to identify whose the land belongs to who. And 3 is working, the government identified some large swath of lands to develop, for example, industrial parks, housing projects moving forward. But then we have to expropriate, the owners and do the development projects on there. So the cadastre project will basically benefit all into identifying the land belongs to who and having that digitized and having it online. So it's a very expensive and costly project. It's a $75 million project, but one that has to be done. the IDB is helping, and we have different support, in that regard. Some of the takeaways is one, that it's welcome to have a coordination with the Prime Minister's office. So I'm happy about that, to be able to play my small part into helping helping Haiti at the end of the day. Two is also keeping focused on the project. That's the takeaway. What started is not going to be easy. I don't want people to think that they're gonna go into Haiti today and that everything is gonna be easy, because it's not. And that's why I said that we need to stay focused and we need to stay the course, because at the end of the day, the project always ends up happening with all the difficulties in between. My office will be able to help in that regard. In getting papers, for example, for the NGOs to operate, we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to help, putting people in touch with the different government agencies to make your work easier. We'll be able to have regular meetings and comparing what are the commitments, what's not done, why it's not done, and what's our responsibility to make it happen. And I've been starting to do that. We're having an NGO forum also on the 8th of October at the Ministry of Planning, and I happen to be also the Minister of Planning and the one in charge of NGOs as well. So, so on the 8th, it will be a good opportunity to also show the different advances of NGOs and see how we can better involve the government into working with the priorities. But seeing from this the commitment, it's a wonderful commitment and great addition to me to have all of the great people in this room today and doing things that have never been done in Haiti before. And this is the aim, is to deliver on those commitments.
We had a couple hands over here, so let me just try to, real quick, if we can, kind of fire through, because we have a couple of new commitments we want to announce. So over here in the far end of the room, please stand up and tell us who you are. Why don't you start yelling, and then we'll get the microphone to you. Heineken. Good.
Of course, Dennis. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Donald. I'm the Corporate Social Responsibility Manager for Heineken in Haiti. And I want to talk about the Heineken story in Haiti for those who already know how we are involved, but also for those who are still hesitating to come to Haiti. Heineken has been a shareholder of the National Brewery since the 80s. Last year, Heineken decided to increase its shares in the brewery from 22% to 95%, and it became the operator. This year, in March, President Clinton visited the brewery, and we announced that we were going to invest about $40 million in 2013 and 2014. Well, 2 weeks ago, we changed that, and we said instead of $40 million, we will be investing $100 million in Haiti over the next 4 years. And I'm glad to announce that here, because last year we committed to not only to invest, but also to locally source our raw materials and packaging materials. Before the arrival of Heineken in Haiti, everything was imported from Europe. And there are so many farmers waiting to use their lands and produce a crop that a company or some people will be buying. So we are actually creating that market for the Haitian farmers. In the next 4 years, we will be training more than 18,000 farmers and create a local market for sorghum for $3 to $4 million on a yearly basis. And this certainly would not have been possible without the support of the Prime Minister and his team, because we are talking about stability and security. And over the last 18 months, we have seen a stable and very secure country. And this is why we have decided to change from $40 million to $100 million. So we are very happy to talk about that story and to invite other foreign investors to invest in Haiti in order to create more jobs, to increase the purchasing power of every and each Haitian, because this is what the Haitian nation needs. And I'm proud to be Haitian. And I'm going to work hard to make sure that it happens. And I count on you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. If you'll pass the microphone over to the next table. I think we have someone at the next table. By the way, at that table, would Mari Snyder from Marriott International, my colleague, stand up? Because whether you're selling Heineken or chickens or eggs, Mari can also help do interference as we try to develop our context for our supply chain as well. So Mari, raise your hand there so people know my colleague there. Also at that table, I think we had another question. Please tell us who you are. And
Hi, Ruth Messenger from American Jewish World Service. We've been in Haiti for 10 years. We've done $5 million worth of work since the earthquake, mostly on women and girls and on land rights. And I really want to first thank Dennis and Scarlett for allowing us to keep agriculture and agricultural improvement on the agenda of the action group for years. But I want to follow up very closely on what the Prime Minister said so generously and what Dr. Yunus said and what President Clinton said yesterday. And I hope that some of the land rights issues, which I think are really easier to address than some of the ones you're tackling, are just smallholder farmers in rural areas being able to keep their title because you don't have to amass hundreds of acres. But if we know pretty clearly from around the world that if smallholder farmers have title to their land, then there's much more opportunity to invest in all of those agricultural improvements that guarantee sustainability and that allow Haiti to come back as a country that can feed its own people.
great. Thank you so much. Moving the microphone over right here, we have another person. Just keep on passing the microphone over. Thank you.
Hi, Bob Freeling with the Solar Electric Light Fund. We've been working in Haiti since 2008 to bring solar power to rural villages, initially with Partners in Health to solar electrify their health clinics, and then subsequently after the earthquake with the Inter-American Development Bank to electrify clinics, and also with JPHRO to bring solar streetlights to one of their camps, and also with NRG to electrify a number of schools, a fish farm, and a solar-powered drip irrigation system. And now we'll be working with UNEP and the IDB on a brand new solar microgrid project in the south of Haiti. So this is all very exciting, but one of the most important lessons that we've learned in working with these various partners is the importance of local capacity building. We've trained a handful of solar technicians in Haiti, and they're doing a great job, but it's just the tip of the iceberg of in terms of what's needed. And I was very glad to see the Prime Minister point out energy as a priority sector for the development of Haiti's future. Without energy, there's no way that the Millennium Development Goals will be achieved. In order for that to happen, though, it's absolutely critical that Haiti develop the next generation of solar technicians that can design, install, and maintain these systems. So we've actually got some seed funding from the Kellogg Foundation to put together a concept for a national solar academy in Haiti. We're very excited about this, but we need partners. And I'd like to put a challenge to the panel and to this room to think about ways where we could actually turn that vision into reality, to create a permanent training facility in Haiti that will train the next generation of solar technicians that can go out throughout the country. This will create jobs for the Haitian people, and it will also create a sustainable future for the
Will you come on the
Great.
17th of December? Sorry, Kathleen. And we'll give you 10 minutes of a pitch on how it would work and what you want from the room.
At the Haitian Action Network meeting,
On the
17th of December.
I'm there.
Good.
Great.
Thank you.
And you've probably got entrepreneurs that are going to be at your Entrepreneurs of the Year award that would also be potentially interested. I just
One more
happened to
question.
notice that
One more question.
we'll have a couple more questions, but I just did notice that President Clinton has joined us in the room. I know he has a microphone in front of him, and so he may jump in at any point. But President Clinton, we've had a great discussion here, updating some of the close to 100 commitments through the Haiti Action Network, the lessons learned by those of the people on the stage, Dennis O'Brien, Danielle, and Sean Penn, in their particular experiences doing business in Haiti, operating NGOs, operating organizations focused on women, but also from the room we've been getting great examples of success stories and what has made those work and what the challenges are ahead. Prime Minister Lamothe has been very forthcoming, talking about sort of the progress, but what still needs to be done. We've talked a little bit about land tenure and how important that is, but what the challenges are with a close to 200-year-old set of laws and realities around land tenure, but great forthcoming interaction there. So just to bring you up to date, we're going through, and we've got some other folks here. Please tell us who you are.
Hi, Ashok Mehbubani from the Ekta Foundation. with the focus on tourism and security, I was wondering if there's been much thought given to the idea of spreading the use of the English language more widely, and whether training in that area could be helpful in making sure that tourism and security get the boost that they richly deserve in Haiti.
I think that is, very much on point. Just in our early stages of identifying organizations, schools that could potentially be a pipeline of future employees with us. Already, we're looking at the French language capabilities, the need for English if you're going to be a global destination, because English is the business language, and how you create that capability with young people so that they are able to meet those job opportunities. Prime Minister, I saw you nodding. Did you have something you wanted to say about that?
Actually, what we've just inaugurated last week is a new police unit, which is the tourist police that you will see, close to all, and they're trained in English, also to help investors and tourists to come. So that's a small step. But definitely, we are going to, as we're improving access to schools, the quality of the teachers with teacher training programs. We are looking at also pushing the English language into the curricula. So that's one point that we've taken the steps of doing. And as you know, it's a tremendous challenge. Every segment of the education sector is challenging, but definitely the English will play a very important role, because, as Danielle said, we are managing the government in a very different way, the Anglo-Saxon certainly way. So we have that high on our priority list.
And Dennis, you nodded. Do you think a continuing challenge of having Haiti receptive to the kind of business investment and opportunities that could come into Haiti at this point?
I think it's worth exploring, particularly in the northern part of Haiti, is how do you bring in basic English skills into the schools. It's a terrific idea, and you always have great ideas. Thank you very much. Fantastic.
I think we had one other one over here. Why don't we take...
I want to say, in the telecenters that we are talking with the U.S. Embassy and the French Embassy to have French and English courses online.
So just right here, one last question.
Tony Bond, 3W International. I have a quick question for Danielle. You mentioned you work with large numbers of entrepreneurs and grassroots startup folks. Is there, other than the big corporations and partnerships, is there some sort of committee set up with high caliber incubation people, angel investors, management consultants who give the entrepreneurs the access on a regular basis, whether as a for-profit or not-for-profit, advice and help in the early days of these smaller startups? I mean, it's a big problem here, especially bigger in developing countries, as I imagine the same problem would exist there.
Yes, we don't have a program, but you have the social business. What they are doing. It's also about incubation, and we have the University of Quisqueya University. They have just launched a center for entrepreneurship and innovation that will really help. But we need really to reinforce our Chamber of Commerce locally so that we can really work on the business development through incubation.
So just as we wrap up here, before we talk about these commitments, it's the Haiti Action Network, not the Haiti Talk Network. So what have you heard today in all this conversation that makes you more optimistic, fires you up?
I think all the
tonight.
different contributions. I mean, Sean is palpable with his enthusiasm. So is Danielle. But everybody in the room, this idea about language, everybody's contributing here. But can I just say, you've brought us up to a new level for these meetings, and I want to say, fantastic. Thank you very much, Kathleen.
Good,
Absolutely. I need you now to run the meetings, and I'll retire because incredible. And may I also thank Scarlett. Where are you, Scarlett? Scarlett, wait, stand up.
Fearless leader, Scarlett Cronin, that back there in the back.
And Greg Milne. Where's Greg?
Greg, from the Clinton Foundation. Please stand up, Greg. Give us a wave.
So,
thank you, Greg.
Both you guys, and to Kathleen, thank you very, very much. And may I just say one thing? Paul Farmer, he got us going in a little room, maybe small, it was a shoebox. So thank you very much, Paul, for being our kind of co-founder with the president and for the work that you're doing in Haiti.
Thank you so much. So we have a couple of commitments. So as our panelists leave the stage, and before we hear from President Clinton, which we're all very excited to do, I wanted to bring up Blake McCasey from Tom's. I would have thought his name was Tom, but there's a great story behind that. Blake, thank you so much. If you can talk a little bit about your commitment. And then we have a second one. I'm going to stay here as I bring up the next person.
Great.
Thank you, Blake.
So it's an absolute pleasure to be here today. And Kathleen, thank you for leading such an awesome panel. You know, our relationship with Haiti began 3 years ago when President Clinton asked me to send shoes to the people of Haiti who desperately needed them after the earthquake. Tom's responded by sending hundreds of thousands of shoes to help protect people's feet from the rubble and the tetanus. Now that's what brought us to Haiti. But what will keep us in Haiti is our CGI commitment today. Over the past 2 years, we've had countless meetings, trips, working with the government, the Clinton Foundation, and many people in this room. After all of that, today Tom's is committing to large-scale shoe production and job creation in Haiti.
Woo!
Now, I want everyone to hear me clearly. This is not just additional aid to Haiti, but this marks a major investment for Tom's, and we believe that we'll have one of the most important returns on business investment possible, and that is improving people's lives. Now, things are already moving fast. The factory will be receiving the necessary machinery in December. We will hire and start training local Haitians right after the holidays, and this factory will be making Tom's shoes in January. So this is happening. But this commitment is not just jobs. Our vision is to provide the workers with true career paths by investing in their well-being and their families. And we believe these Haitian workers will become the leaders of a growing footwear industry in Haiti to come. As I said in the beginning, what brought us to Haiti was philanthropy, but what will keep us in Haiti is business. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. And we have a second commitment to highlight, and I'd like to bring up Richard Fedrizzi from the U.S. Green Building Council, USGLBC, Lucienne Duncan of Fondation Enfant Jésus, and Gina Duncan, also from Fondation Enfant Jésus, and Paul Shala of Delos Living. Thank you for joining us on the stage. We have a video, that's why we've gone dark.
Every story about a green building is a story about people. And in the case of Project Haiti Orphanage and Children's Center, this is about Gina and Lucien Duncan, whose compassionate acts of charity are literally transforming the lives of kids who have had absolutely nothing.
We like to call ourselves the bridge between that life that child comes from and where that child is going.
We are going to build a LEED Platinum orphanage. And if we can build a LEED Platinum building here in Haiti, we can do it any place in the world. And that is leadership by example. We were absolutely thrilled to have HOK come on board, and I think that this is a partnership that is going to really show the power of the green building movement.
The building has wonderful opportunities, and I think we could really do something very special for these kids.
It's the faces, the laughter, the joy of the children. This orphanage, it's going to provide a safe place for these children to learn and to grow.
It's an amazing opportunity for Haiti. It's a legacy that we're going to be leaving for the next generation as an example.
Thank you very much. My name is Rick Fedrizzi. A lot of you probably don't know, but with the greening of the White House project that took place almost 20 years ago, President Clinton put a stake in the ground that really helped us understand what the full potential of a green building movement could be. U.S. Green Building Council was formed at that time, and we're now an organization of 14,000 member organizations and a very large global network. I was lucky enough to, in the October before the earthquake, travel to Haiti with President Clinton, with Denis O'Brien and a group of others, to really see what the potential of the country was. Certainly with the devastation of the earthquake that following January, a lot of people had questions. We all came to CGI the next year, and we were trying to figure out, what do we do? At that point, the Action Network was not fully baked yet, but President Clinton actually told all of us, give something, but more importantly, do something. Really important words. I'm here today to tell you that the U.S. Green Building Council has reached the point in its fundraising where the groundbreaking on our own orphanage in Haiti to take the place of the one that was devastated by the earthquakes will take place. The facility is replacing the one that has been run by these two amazing people, Gina Duncan and Lucien Duncan, whose foundation, Enfant Jesus, has been a fixture in caring for the children of Haiti for over 20 years. When complete, the new facility will house a health clinic, administrative offices for FEJ, and a training center to educate local women on family planning, in addition to housing for 25 to 30 orphans at a time. The Delos organization, who is our largest funder and an organization that has helped us understand the humanity of this project, is joining us in this effort by incorporating the advanced processes and technologies being pioneered by the Well Building Standard into the design, and looking at how these human wellness technologies can be scaled so they're accessible for the most vulnerable populations around the world. Paul Ciala, thank you very much for your contribution. I wanted to give you that progress report, but I also wanted to let you know that in honor of President Clinton's global green building leadership and his deep and abiding commitment to the people of Haiti, U.S. Green Building Council's Project Haiti will now be known as the William Jefferson Clinton Children's Center. Thank you, Mr. President.
Bravo. Thank you very much. So, what a great introduction to the president. Thank you so much. Earlier, Sean Penn talked about how Haiti is a place you don't just go to once. And I know President Clinton and his wife were there soon after they got married, and that's when the bug took root. Do you even know how many times you've been to Haiti, Mr. President, since?
A lot.
I guess. So thank you very much for joining us, and I know you'd probably like to talk a little bit to the group here. It's been, as you can see, a packed room, everybody leaning in, incredibly excited about being part of this, which we owe to you, the Clinton Foundation, and the Clinton Global Initiative for making happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kathleen. I want to thank you and Marriott for your contribution to rebuilding Haiti. I thank Rick, Lucien, Gina, and Paul Ciala. Thank you for building this children's center and for naming it for me. I'm getting nervous now. You know, I basically don't think former presidents need any awards. I think having had the job was honor enough, and now I've had two buildings that mean a lot to me, this Children's Center and the EPA building in Washington. It makes me think I must have one leg in the grave. I'm getting nervous. I was hoping to hang around a little more so I could wart the Prime Minister. I thank Prime Minister Lamothe for being a good partner to this Haiti working group and for all of our endeavors. It's been extremely rewarding. My friend Blake Mycosi and Tom Shoes, I'm very grateful to you for putting this plant there. It will help a lot and help, I think, to induce others to move facilities there. Prime Minister, I was thinking about all the things that we have been involved in. thanks to Dennis's leadership, thanks to you, Sean, Danielle, all the stuff that's happened over the last 4 or 5 years, the one thing we've learned is the more people we can get involved as partners, the better we're going to do. When the government is working with the private sector and with NGOs, our impact will be greater. Second is that it's just like pushing a rock up a hill sometimes. You can't get discouraged if it doesn't work out right away. You just have to keep working. I'm still very hopeful. I see my friend Rolando Gonzalez-Buncer here. I'm still very hopeful that eventually we will liberate Haiti from its dependence on imported oil. And the country could run on solar, wind, and biomass. And it's a continuing challenge because all those things have their cost up front and then they're cheap to run. You have to work out the financing, but like most of the Caribbean and more than most of the Caribbean, they have the highest electric rates in the world, so we don't need the kind of subsidies we need in America to make this energy transition work. And I hope that that will continue. I think Denis has been a wonder, not only leading this group, but also building the schools that he's built and creating opportunities for kids. And now we've had some new partners, and I want to mention them since we talked last. Abbott Labs is building a nutrition facility in the Central Plateau with the support of Paul Farmer and Partners in Health. I visited it in the spring, and I'm really impressed with the work they're doing, and it's really, really important. We were talking about this at CGI the other day, yesterday, but just for those that may not have been in that meeting, the Millennium Development Goal, where there's been the most progress, is in the reduction of deaths of children under 6. They're down almost 50% since 1990. The goal is to get to two-thirds reduction. Interestingly enough, the biggest drops have been in Bangladesh in spite of their horrible political problems. There's been an 80% reduction, 74% reduction in China. In India, there's been a substantial reduction, but under the goal, it's 56%. And the reason I mention that is because of this Abbott Labs project. There will be a major effort, which we're a part of because of the work we do in my foundation in AIDS, TB, and malaria, to deal with child malnutrition, which leads to stunning as well as early death. And India and Africa will be at the core of that effort. So I'm hopeful about that, but in our hemisphere, nothing would send a bigger signal that Haiti is really serious if we could prove both we could get all the kids in school and we could reach the Millennium Development Goals of the 2/3 reduction of deaths of children under 5. And our foundation, Chelsea went to Nigeria to announce our major part of that so far, which is distributing oral rehydration therapy and zinc in places so kids don't die of dysentery and diarrhea and other things. But the nutrition piece is a big part of this. So I'm excited about that. And our network also has been working with Help, Connor Bohan's group, to get more scholarships for more Haitian kids, to get them when they get out of high school to be able to go to university in Haiti and minimize the brain drain, which I think is really, really important. Heineken has become a major player in Haiti because they bought a local brewery last year and made a commitment to source more materials from Haiti. And now they're helping 18,000 farmers by using domestically produced sorghum and transforming the waste into compost. Is a company, NGO called Soil. Heineken's using the compost. And that also helps the farmers. So we're getting there. There were, just in the last year, coming up to be announced here, there have been 7 new commitments made that help Haiti in ways that are often quite labor intensive, and I think that's important. I want to say specifically, because I think this is interesting, the Swiss perfume company, Firmenich, and Nomad 2 Worlds have agreed to develop and launch 10 new fragrances featuring ingredients from indigenous communities, including those in Haiti. So it's a funny thing, but sometimes if Haiti were to become known as the source of elegant perfume, we might get some people who can afford the perfume to invest in Haiti to make it a source of more jobs and businesses and incomes. So I'm particularly grateful for this. In terms of the Children's Center itself, I'm very grateful to the Green Building Council, but I also want to say a word about Paul Scialla and his project. They really are trying to get people to totally rethink the way we design buildings, not only to make them the highest standard in terms of clean energy, but in terms of living environment, to understand that we spend a huge amount of our time inside all over the world. And we have given, to date, relatively little thought, unless we are really rich, to what happens to us in all those hours we are inside, and how we might make that just as healthy as being outside. So this will be the first time, as far as I know, that anybody has ever given this kind of strategic thought to really poor children in a place where they have to have a new future. I don't know how it's going to come out, but I find it quite exciting, and so thank you very much. If we can prove with other living arrangements, as I think has already been demonstrated with energy, that you can make benefits available to poor people as well as wealthy people in a way that benefits the whole society, I believe it will make a big difference. The last thing I'd like to say is I couldn't help laughing that when Kathleen said something about the Prime Minister still working on land rights. I have done this work all over the world. Haiti is the single most complicated place in the world to resolve land title. I once was jumping on the Prime Minister. I said, how complicated can this be? We did it in Peru. We did it. He said, the people in my own cabinet have people contesting the land they own. Right? Patrick was saying there was somebody building a house every day on land that's been in his family for 5 generations. There are literally, it is maddening. And I say that with great affection. The Prime Minister promised that he would make it easier to start a business in Haiti, easier to find out how to do it, cut down the number of steps to do it. Does it still take too long in some ways? Absolutely. Has he made it easier? Yes, he has. That this is not a place for the faint-hearted. But there are, Sean Penn will tell you, I always tell everybody, I always liked Sean Penn, and we had some mutual friends that periodically brought us together. But I truly began to love him after the earthquake, because he was never a drive-by celebrity. And the best metaphor I can tell you for how to be effective working in somebody else's country is this. I went down to Haiti as a UN envoy, special envoy. And we started before the earthquake because of the hurricanes that had occurred before. So then the world came to an end, in effect, in the earthquake, and I started going down. And the first time I went to the UN Center and we started talking about the camps, there was nobody there from the camps. So I said, it's my understanding that every camp has elected a representative. I want them to have all your cell phone numbers. I want you to talk to them every day. It always takes longer to get people housing than anything else. after a natural disaster. It always takes too long everywhere. We were 6 months late moving people out of camps in Aceh in Indonesia after the tsunami. And believe me, I was killing myself to do it. It always takes too long. And I said, the next time I come here, I want to meet with the representatives of all the camps. There were 10 camps, as I remember. I show up early in the morning for the meeting, and there's 9 Haitians and Sean Penn. They elected him because he'd been in the mud and the dirt, seeing what was wrong. That's what we all have to be willing to do. If we're going to share the future, we can't just claim the upside. And I'm so grateful to all of you who have been loyal to Haiti. It is worth the effort. They are magnificent people. They have unbelievable potential. For 200 years, they have been misgoverned and abused by their neighbors or neglected by their neighbors, including the United States at various times. Nobody, before we ever condemned them, realized that none of the rest of us have a perfect record in dealing with them. We have on occasion been great neighbors and often not. So we've all been working in the same way for several years now, and a lot of people get frustrated that it's not happening faster. I'm thrilled that it's still happening. And those of you who have become addicted, as I am, to the country, those of you who have become connected, Laura Graham now has 2 children from Haiti. All of us have made an investment that can only be honored by completing the task. So this is what we're celebrating today. And Dennis, again, I can't thank you enough. You work in a lot of countries. You sell cell phones in a lot of countries. You could have spent your time in a lot of countries. And you've hung in there with us from the first day to this. This is going to get better and better if we don't get off the horse. Thank you. God bless you.